Week 16 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few kickers I look to drop this week. The first guy, Younghoe Koo of the Atlanta Falcons. So Younghoe Koo, I thought he was going to have a good ball game in Week 15 at the Saints, but obviously that wasn't the case. And Younghoe Koo, it's been Jekyll and Hyde over the last few weeks here for him. Week 11 versus Chicago, 12. Week 12 at Washington, 9. Week 13 versus the Steelers, 14. And Week 15 in New Orleans, 4. So right now, this offense isn't moving the football well. Desmond Ridder, he didn't look that great to me, in my opinion. Another guy who holds onto the football a lot, and he looks to scramble a decent amount of times as well. So right here in a tough matchup at Baltimore in Week 16, that gives up the least amount of fantasy points to kickers on the season. And we know Koo, when he's not in the dome, he's not that great of a kicker in terms of putting up fantasy points. So this week here, with those factors against him and possibly horrible weather in Baltimore, he's definitely a kicker I would drop this week. The next guy, Robbie Gould of the San Francisco 49ers. So another guy, one good game, one horrible game, it seems like, for Robbie Gould. In the last 2 weeks here, the numbers definitely fallen off. And this week, I know it's a defensive matchup versus the Washington Commanders, but Robbie Gould right now, he's in an offense that's pretty decent, even though Deebo Samuel is probably going to be out of this game once again here. So the last few weeks here for Gould: Week 12 versus New Orleans, 8. Week 13 versus Miami, 18. Week 14 versus Tampa, 5. And Week 15 at Seattle, 3. So right now, his last double-digit game besides that Week 13 game, we go all the way back to Week 7. He's putting up 7-8 fantasy points, which is decent, but you always want to find a guy that can push the envelope a little bit more. So right now, he's pretty much set in anywhere from that 5 to 8 point range here is Robbie Gould. And this week here with a mediocre matchup and not putting up fantasy points over the last couple weeks, he's a kicker I would drop. In the third and final kicker I look to drop this week here is Jake Elliott of the Philadelphia Eagles. So right now we know the Eagles 13-1, best team in the league here. But Jake Elliott, it just hasn't transitioned for him to get many opportunities. This Eagle team just scores way too many touchdowns for him to be a fantasy option week in and week out. Week 13 versus Tennessee, 5. Week 14 at the Giants, 12. And Week 15 at the Bears, 5. So right now, Week 16, I know a good matchup on paper at the Cowboys that give up the 7th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. But right now, we don't know if Jalen Hurts is going to play. Looks like Gardner Minshew's probably going to be the starter here, obviously, if Hurts is not going to go with the shoulder strain. And Jake Elliott, he might get some opportunities in that game where Minshew might not punch in, obviously, a lot of those drives in the end zone. But either way, he's a kicker that really hasn't been putting up numbers this season. So that's a few kickers I look to drop here for Week 16 of the fantasy football season.